Hi, Blastpop here. Today I'm looking at Battle Above the Clouds by MMP, part of the great campaigns of the American Civil War. The series was originally first designed by Joe Balkowski, and subsequently the mantle for designing the series has moved on to Ed Beach, and there's been a couple other individuals also who are involved in the process of designing and publishing these games, or getting them published. Originally the series started with Avalon Hill, moved on to MMP. Now this includes the campaign that resulted in the battles of Chickamauga and Chattanooga, and is in a very difficult area for maneuver as compared to some of the campaigns in the East. Now, I have mixed emotions with this game in the series. I have played a lot of the other ones in the past when they were published by Avalon Hill, and there are some design changes in terms of graphics and components that have been alluded to by other people elsewhere, but suffice it to say I'm in agreement with some of those differing viewpoints, and I'll explain as I go along. So anyway, you have a nice cover here, one by Mort Kunstler. The box is a 1.5 or 2 inch size box. Very, very serviceable. Included in this game are a couple of maps, a couple rules books. One is a series rule, the other one's specific rules. 3 sheets of counters, charts, tables, round out the package. You have the rules book here, which is the specific rules. It also includes the scenarios. And as you'll see, the print in both rules book are pretty small. Hopefully the reflections here aren't too bad. And I find that I have to squint a little bit to read what's in them. Now this rules book, including charts, introductory materials, and so on and so forth, that weighs in at 68 pages. So there's an awful lot of material here. There's historical notes, scenario setup, special rules, all very nicely done. A basic game rules book, version 1.1, is very nicely done with some illustrations, and again, the small print. But it's a compact package. It doesn't look anywhere near as daunting as the scenario book. So this is, in my estimation, a good idea to keep the first book small so you don't feel like you're overwhelmed with too much before you would have to utilize the information you've learned to play a scenario. And this weighs in with charts, cover, and everything else, so it's not all reading in. It's 28. Looks like 28 pages in total. Again, a version of the same cover. Then you come to the counters. And this is one of the areas where I have a serious concern about. They departed, and I think they're probably going to be changing the counters at some point in a future edition, I think. I'm not 100% sure on this. They went to more of a, went away from what was originally the kind of counters that they had in the other games in the series. So they departed from that. So this is what's Battle Above the Clouds provides. Okay? And on the back, to me it's kind of busy, and I don't think adds to the immersion value as much. I'll show you right here now. Here's the Union counters that you just saw. Here's from Road to Gettysburg. Well, kind of, some people would say this is old school, and it might well be. There's a certain simplicity and standardization that had previously been used in the games, and it departs from it, and it does have, in a weird sort of way, a nice feel to them when you're actually playing the game. Now, this is the old edition of Road to Gettysburg. This is not the new version that was just recently published by MMP. I'd like to add that. So, it just doesn't seem as classy or as timeless as the other ones do in the older games. There's nothing wrong with them. They're serviceable. Don't get me wrong. You know, they just seem a little too busy for my tastes. Perfectly readable, nicely die cut. By today's standards, some people might consider them to be kind of thinly cut. Here's the, give you a sense how thick that they are. And they're the clear, I should say the white core, as opposed to like the chip cardboard of the older version. And frankly, they're not too different in thickness. Nicely illustrated terrain effects chart. Good explanation. The charts that you'll mostly use, you get a couple sets of those, include your combat table and various summaries relating to combat on one page, which is nice and handy. This is a fold-out sheet, and so then you have various summaries, movement summaries, extended march, force march. They are handy. Although do download the updates on Board Game Geek and or MMP's website that update what errors that were made to the game in its original printing. So there you go on that. 2 sets of those. Now this is the other area that I'm not particularly happy. The artwork in this for the map is very similar. It was done, if I'm not mistaken, on computer as opposed to hand painted the way the original game and games in the series were. I could be wrong, and I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong. Not only that, but it's printed on a gloss sheet. And you can see that there's the impact you can see right here of the reflections. In contrast, also from Road to Gettysburg, the first edition of that game, here's a copy of that map. No glare. Everything's clean and crisp. It doesn't have the gloss to it. And this is like a matte finish, and no matter what angle you're at, it's readable. So I'm glad to get the game Battle Above the Clouds, but I'm not as happy with it as I might have been otherwise if they kept the same consistency that they had in some of the earlier games. It's new theater for me to fight in. I fell back and behind on some of the games. I haven't yet received the Atlanta game or the new version of the Gettysburg game, which at some point I look forward to getting a hold of. Although I do think that they're, for my opinion, and this is my own personal preference and opinion, a little pricey for the game system. Great games, don't get me wrong, and there's a lot of play value in them. I just think that the high price that some of these games have in the series is a little expensive. Anyway, this game includes several scenarios, but I digress. Sorry about that. So this probably will see quite a bit of gaming on my table, and I'm hoping that maybe somebody has redone the unit counters in the game. Maybe posted them on Facebook or something. That would be nice. Not Facebook, but on Board Game Geek, I'm sorry. So that maybe I can kind of get a semblance of playing this game with the earlier type of and style of counters. And, this is also interesting from the perspective that it's a different theater. It's not the Eastern Theater, it's the Western Theater. Different forces, different leaders. Different leaders make their first appearance. So it certainly gives the opportunity to break new ground. So quite possibly, because I do believe the Atlanta game does meet up to Battle Above the Clouds, if not at least scenarios, at least in terms of physically lining up, that would be really cool. And so I'll probably end up acquiring the Atlanta game first. But anyway, this gives you an overview and some of my thoughts and concerns about the way the series had made a turn with this version of the rules and this game going west. Both my concerns about the counters and the gloss maps. So anyway, please like and comment below and subscribe. This has been Blastpop. Bye.